we are underway, I believe. I think everything's working fine. Gonna do something different this week. We are going to actually do a hand history review of something we shipped on Sunday. We actually won something. I'm gonna try and be as interactive as I can. I don't want to just sit here and like spew like information at you and just like randomly say this is how you should do things and preach what I've done and stuff, because I don't really think there's much merit to that. So I'll pull up the chat and we'll. What I'll do is give a couple of minutes here for everyone just to join in, and hopefully we can get some good content going and some decent hype. I'm going to, as I say, pull up the chat so I can actually see what's going on. So yeah, how is everyone? So this tournament we're going to review is, I'll just take it back to the first hand. It's a 22 6 max, so lots of aggression, lots of like button clicking going on in 6 max tournaments. People love to get a little bit freaky, a little bit out of line, so it should be more aggressive than normal. A little precursor here, we just have God mode enabled. Like the guy at PokerStars decided we were going to win this tournament as soon as we registered, so we do run good, which you need to when you play a tournament, but hopefully we played good too. Yeah, I can't see how many people are there just yet, but what I'll do, I'll just start going through any questions. If there's any hands you think that I've played like an absolute Mongo, or you think that if you think I've done something wrong or should have taken a different line or whatever, then let's get it going in chat and we'll have a debate about it. I do have the chat here. You guys can't see it on my screen, but it is kind of sitting here off screen. So as soon as I actually get logged in, I'll be able to see who's there, and we'll crack on with the hand history. So yeah, just in case you have just joined, it's a hand history review. We're going to go through, certainly for the first hour or so. We might, depending on how it goes and how people are enjoying it, we might just flick over and just straight up go and do some live sweats and just reg up. But probably not for an hour or so. Let's try and learn something. Knowledge is power and stuff. So let's work on that. Okay, so I'll move my HUD stats because they're not really that important. They're just in the way. Right. So we have King Jack suited out. These HUD stats, I probably should remove known cards and things as well. We really only want the stats up to the hand. I know that the HUD stats aren't really that reliable on Hold'em Manager. They tend to just give you whatever numbers they want, but hopefully if we do that, it doesn't work. Okay, not to worry. We'll basically have more information now than we did have at the time, because we're going to have the whole HUD stats that we had for the tournament, but that's not a problem. If anything, it'll probably give us a bit more to go on, and we'll be able to make more educated decisions, because if we've got a sample size of someone, we can then start looking at reads and figuring out how we'd adjust to that particular opponent. So it's better to do that with if we've got some kind of sample size and if we're talking with complete randoms. But so let's look at King Jack. Opening, I'm not min raising this early on. I think that people that do it basically just shows a massive lack of understanding of stack sizes and things, because you shouldn't be doing it for lots of reasons. First of all, you don't want, especially when you're like out of position. First of all, the stack sizes. Oh, hold on, mine just disappeared. I have no idea what's going on. Oh well, it looks like we're not playing. We'll give Hold'em Manager a minute to catch up, but yeah, you shouldn't really be min raising early on, because the big blind, especially when, okay, let's look at it this way. When you're opening early on, you're going to be playing a lot tighter, especially pre-ante, than you would be normally. So generally your range of hands is going to be much stronger than it would be normally, because you're genuinely going to be opening hands that you are planning on winning big pots with, because otherwise there's not much incentive. Like there's only 60 chips dead and there's no antes, so there's not really any point in stealing this early on. So when you are playing hands, you're going to be playing them to win big pots, and therefore the best way of doing that is with a stronger range of hands that can flop well. Like you know, Jack 9 and stuff. So what you want to do as well is you don't want to be playing like 5 and 6 way pots. As that's not necessarily true. With the majority of your hands, you don't want to be playing 5 and 6 way pots. So early on, you should be raising as much. When you're raising for value, which you are doing when you're raising a stronger range, you want to be raising as much as people are going to call you with. And min raising just doesn't achieve anything. The stacks are just so much bigger. Sorry, so much deeper that you're not really going to get yourself into decent spots. I'm probably going to have to reboot Hold'em Manager. It didn't like me moving things around, so this is the problem. At least that gives us, it'll take me a minute to do it, and maybe we can just do it in Universal Replay. Yeah, let's just do it in Universal Replay. That tends to be a little bit less temperamental, so I'll pull it up now. Sorry, teething problems. It was a last minute plan to do a hand history, so I wasn't really that prepared for it, but it should be fun once we get going anyway. It'd certainly be better when we have an entourage of people here, people that can actually, you know, communicate and give their opinions, because that's basically what I'm wanting to do here. We can attack my play and tell me I'm a fish and stuff, which would be good. Or we can just marvel at my magnificence, which hopefully will be what happens. I hope. Verify faster, please. Okay, so we'll accept the risk because we live on the edge. And we shall open up the hand history, which is here. Where is it? Where is it? If any of you are having issues with Universal Replay when you import hands, I know that lots of people I've come across it 3 or 4 times where they've been really that the hands haven't been important. It's because of these asterisks here. Sometimes there's like 7 or 8 asterisks there. What you want to do is just open a Word document and just like replace all of them so there's just 3 on either side, and then the hand histories work. There was a problem with them, like parsing, is it called? I don't know. So like we put it there and we convert it. There you go. See, that worked. It doesn't work if there's more asterisks there. I think it just doesn't recognize those hands or something. So all my excellent points about not having a HUD are now defunct because we're definitely not going to have one now. So I'm just going to move it so we can see it and we'll crack on. Right, cool. So we are sitting out first time. So this is the first time it's on, but we've looked at the King Jack. Yeah, min raising. Sorry, as I said, I'm not going to badger on about it too much. You shouldn't really be min raising. You want to be you want to be using sizings that are going to get you some fold equity. I mean, yeah, there's not a lot of chips there, but when you've got a stronger range, you want people to make the mistake of calling you more often than they should. And the way you exploit someone that calls too much is by making it bigger when you have a value hand, right? If someone never folds, then you just don't bluff. Not a lot going on. What we'll probably do just for speed, certainly through these early stages, is just flick to hands that we actually play. Again, King Queen with 3x because we're from early position. We don't really want the pot to go like 5 ways and be out of position. We're just going to get spanked a lot. So opening to 3x from early position for value with King Queen suited gets through. So that was alright. My setup. Looking forward to this. I HG, there's it. Hopefully it'll work. But yeah, like fire as many questions as you can. Like, what do you think? Do you like min raising early on? You got some of the stream, sweet. Which one? Which one? We had a live sweat, right? And we went really deep and just blew up in like 2 minutes. Yeah. This is my. I'm still sore about that, so that's why we've agreed to do the hand history review, because then we can't just blow up. Now we'll probably get onto a live sweat a little bit later on, but I just figured we'd do something a bit different. There's a lot of live streaming going on of sessions, and lots of people don't do this reviewing side of things because it's a bit boring, really. And I think this way everyone will benefit from it because we can, you know, all contribute our thought process. And just because I'm doing these streams and doing these videos and stuff, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm not making mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. The trick to poker is just to make less mistakes than everyone else. because nobody plays perfectly. Even, you know, Phil Ivey and stuff. Then they're still making mistakes. It's just not as major and not as many. As I say, we'll skip to the hands that we actually play. This is probably one we're going to play. I'm just wondering how much of a delay we're on. I've put 0 seconds on for the delay, so I'm going to actually test it and see what we have. It looks like there is a small delay. Let me just pull up the settings. I'm just going to double check I've taken the delay off. Yeah, so there isn't actually an official delay. I think it's more just you know, it sends the video wherever it needs to go, and then you guys see it. So we are a little bit behind. I'm going to actually play it and see how far behind we are. Yeah, so there isn't actually an official delay. I think it's more just you know, it sends. Yeah, so we're delaying about 30 seconds, so it's still going to be fine. We can still interact and talk about hands, you know, in the chat, so that should work more than adequately. 3-betting here. Obviously, there's no point in just calling. What we basically, with a hand like aces, we're wanting to get as much money in as possible, as fast as possible. We want to get stacks in as fast as we can, because the faster we get stacks in, the least. Sorry, I'll say it again. We want to get stacks in pre-flop if we can, because that's where we've got the most equity, right? The more a board runs out, or the further down the streets we get, the better the hand, sorry, the weaker one pair becomes, is essentially what I'm trying to say. What we want to do pre-flop is shrink the effective stacks so that he's got a lot, so that I'm trying to keep things as basic as I can, but essentially we want to, the long answer to what we want to do, or the short answer to what we want to do, is shrink the effective stacks so that our opponent stacks off a lot lighter post-flop. Ideally on the flop we want to get in over 1 or 2 streets if possible, and the only way we can do that is by 3-betting. Especially since we're out of position and our opponent isn't, you know, we're going to be relying on him to barrel a lot if we just flat here. And this is pretty like basic stuff. We should, I mean, lots of us are 3-betting here anyway. I actually think my sizing here is a mistake, but lots of us would 3-bet here, but it's important to know why you're doing it. I haven't reviewed these hands actually. This is the first time I'm going through them, so it's nice to see straight away that we make a mistake. I think this is too small. Yeah, we're getting flattered every time, but I think I don't think the amount we make it is going to change his calling frequency that much. I think we should probably go something like 380 here, just because this is always a value. This is always value, and you know, granted we're probably not going to be 3-bet bluffing this early on. Oh, it looks like antes have kicked in actually, so it looks like we've skipped a little bit, but I still like it even bigger. If anything, the antes make it more worth going bigger, because with he's then getting much better pottage, you see. So we 3-bet any calls. This here, c-bet wise, we're going to be c-betting almost 100% of our range. Like when we're 3-betting from the small blind, we're going to have a pretty strong range from there. Especially when we're 3-betting someone from early position. So I'm going to be c-betting here a lot. It looks really wet. There's only really a flush draw there. And when we have the ace of hearts, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, we're not really worried about the flush, because his ace-x flush draws, which are probably the most likely flush draws he's going to call with, aren't in his range anymore. So it looks really dry, but actually 7-7-9 with only one flush draw isn't. Sorry, it looks really wet, but it's not really. So I don't even mind going smaller here. Probably something like 3-11 that just looks like it's a stab, and we can then expect to get floated sometimes as well. So 375, I think that's fine, half pot. Seems like it's going to be pretty balanced, easy, consistent amount. We get called, which we expect. We turn the 8 of hearts. I don't mind a check or a bet here, and as you see, because we've 3-bet, the stack to pot ratio on the turn here is we've got just over a pot size bet. I mean, we're obviously the effective stack. He has us covered, so I don't mind a bet or a check here. Thinking about it now, he does have lots of like jacks, queens, and stuff, and some floats in his range. So I think checking's probably the best play here. It's gonna suck when he checks back, with. Do you know what? I don't even think he's going to check back like jacks and queens and stuff here. I think we just look like, if we check here, we just look like we're giving up with ace king so often that he's probably going to bet to protect like tens and jacks and queens and things here that he might have like not been totally comfortable getting in on the flop. And if he does check back, it's not like we're going to make a massive overbet shove on the turn anyway. Sorry, on the river, because we've got just over a pot size bet, so we could still feasibly have some bluffs there. So yeah, I do think checking's better though, because although he's going to call us with those hands that he's going to, you know, barrel anywhere, like his tens and his jacks and stuff. Yes, he's going to call those hands, but he's also going to be floating sometimes as well. So he might be take a stab here with something like queen jack, the float of the flop, queen jack of clubs maybe, who've now turned a good shot after having like backdoor straight and backdoor flush draws and stuff. So if he's calling us with the same range that he's going to bet, and he can also bet some bluffs sometimes as well, well then it makes sense to check, because we get the value from when he's going to call us, and then also some extra value from when he decides to try and move us off the hand as well, which we can expect to do. I mean, people are floating a lot more nowadays. No one ever folds the flop. Like, I don't remember the last time I opened, someone called my c-bet and then just gave up and just check folded the turn, but it's just the way it is, I guess. Oh, we do check, sweet. Oh no, we bet. Do we bet? Do we check? Okay, so we lead for 750. We lead half pot again. It looks like I was just setting up to shove the river. I guess the good thing about this is if he does have tens and jacks and stuff, he's just going to rip it, but I don't really like it. I think for the reasons I said, I think we should probably just check here and shove most rivers if he checks back. Granted, there's going to be lots of action killers on the river, but there's going to be more like bricky cards than not. Although any Broadway, but yeah, so he does shove, which is perfectly fine for us. I don't really expect us to be beat here very often, and even if we are, we still got, you know, good clean outs. We're drawn to the nut flush. We got two aces as well, and if he does have a hand like 8-9, we're crushing that anyway. So never folding. Not, I mean, look, especially since we're getting like stupid price on our money. He has the tens, so we just got like an offsuit 6 and a jack to fade, and we do 4 diamonds, so sweet. So yeah, I think in hindsight, I think I quite like checking that turn against people that are. This is where we'd look at our HUD stat, and we'd see how often this guy folds to C bets. If he's like never ever folding a C bet, well, that's when I'd be more inclined to check it and let him. So if we know that he's, you know, floating all the time, well then we're going to let him, you know, bluff with his floats. Whereas if we know this guy's got like a 40% fold to C bet, no sorry, something like an 80% fold to C bet, which is really high, well then we should just bet the turn, because then the range he's getting to the turn with is a lot stronger, and he's probably going to be more likely to get it in on the turn. So that's where you look at your HUD. We don't have the HUD now, unfortunately, because Hold'em Manager is like not cooperating with us, but that's essentially what I'd be looking at, and that would make up my decision. Perhaps I do have some stats on this guy, and that's why I bet the turn. But against like the average person and just like using some kind of population read, I'd probably check this turn. So we get a full double. This should be an open. I assume that was just a mass multi-table. There was a period in this, I don't remember where it was probably around here, where I was trying to stream it at the time, and the stream just wouldn't work, so I think I got a bit distracted by that at some point, so I think we like miss ace king and ace queen and stuff as well, but that's fine. I would have opened the queen jack, I think you should. Now it's going to be a fold. This is a fold, he is fine. We can 3-bet, but against a 3x, I don't really think there's much point. It's just gonna, any size we make it, we're gonna be in the realms of pot committing ourselves and having to like call off his shove with queen high, which is pretty shitty. I would have opened the jack 10 there. I think we should have done. I'm just gonna turn this Facebook chat noise off because I got some hate last time. Right, so we've got no chat now, and I've just sorted it out. So cool. So we're not going to get like any of the Facebook people and stuff. I think you can open here as well. That seems like a fine open. I think this is just another spot. We would like 12 table at this point on Sunday, so I think we probably do miss some spots. Threes again. I probably would fold these in game anyway, given that we've got 1, 2, kind of 3 reshove stacks and the big blind's really short. With a hand like threes, well, it's pretty common sense, right? We're always going to be at least flipping against that big blind, and he's going to get it in a lot. So I think we can defend here. Depending on his raising frequency, we could pile it as well. If he's like really aggro, he's got a really high steal percentage. But with Jack 10, exactly, I don't mind peeling. I think that we're going to flop plenty well enough to be able to play it profitably. Especially since like this guy, once he's c-bet, he's going to be like double barreling as a bluff quite often because his stack's just a perfect size for it. And he's going to have a half pot and then well, 3/4 pot and then 3/4 bet again. We check, which I do with my entire range, especially when he's this short, and he bets 305. This is like a super easy check call for me. There's plenty of hands that we could check call here that we could conceivably fold the turn with, like 8-9, or maybe not 8-9, but something like not 8-9 obviously. I mean something like 8-7-8, King 7, King 6. I don't think he can really expect to fold us up to make us fold any 10s, but when we call this, we don't always have them. I mean, we might even have something like Jack 9 here, which is getting a bit optimistic. A goal. I think that's the best player. We're far and away the best player. And I'm probably going to check this turn as well, especially this turn. I think check folding might be a little bit weak. It's going to depend on whether he ships or not. I think it is kind of a good card for him, but it's also a really good card for him to just bomb as well. Let's see what we do. We do check. If he checks back here, then obviously we're pretty confident we like our hand a lot, but he shoves. Okay, so this is a pretty gross spot. It's the first kind of gross spot we've come across. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, when we call pre-flop, we were expecting to take this line a lot because of his stack size. So we might just have to close our eyes and call here. What do you think? Let's give the chat a second to catch up and we'll see what you think. So you guys are currently on the turn. I won't play the hand yet because I won't spoil it. I don't actually remember what happens. I don't remember if I call or if I fold. Looking at it now, I think we should probably call. He's not necessarily going to have a king here. He's probably going to be shoving, ace jack, queen jack. We block those hands, but he could quite conceivably be shoving ace queen. The king's just such a bad card for our flop calling range. There's only really king 10 that we improve. But because it's such a bad turn card, it's just a much better card for his range than ours, so he can represent it a lot. And with him having just over a pot size bet as well, it's going to get through it a decent percentage of the time. I think it's a call here personally, just because of how likely he is to represent it. It would obviously depend on his HUD stats as well. If he's like giving up on it 100% of turns, well then obviously we're not going to snap here because we know he's going to pretty much have it when he shoves. But if he's the type of guy that takes a fire once and give up kind of approach to c-betting, then I'd probably just give this one up. I mean, especially the more I think about it, the more I think it's a call, because if he does have something like ace king here or king jack or king queen and stuff, we're going to be folding here so much when we call the flop, because it's such a bad card for our range. I think he's probably going to go something like 550 here and then leave us like an amazing price to call the river. So I think this is a call, but let's get some replies in the chat. Let's see what people think. Call or fold? An amazing price to call the river. Let's see where you guys are. Call or fold? What are we thinking? I can see the more, as I say, for the reasons I've said, I think it's a call more often than not. There's just so much here that he can be trying to represent pot. I just put Gary Walton. Yeah, Gary Walton is if you wanna, Gary Walton actually did a hand history series with me on PokerTube. Actually on Poker VIP, so we actually go do something similar through his whole tournament. We've done about 4 or 5 parts of it now. And we take him from like the first hand all the way through, and he ships it for like 11k, so that's definitely worth checking out. I'll just mute that. So we don't have the option to pot it because we can only call, I'm afraid. But what do you think, Gary? Call or fold? I'll give it another minute and we'll see if there's any other alternatives to potting it. Okay. Well, I think it's a call. I did fold, I guess. I think that's really bad. I mean, look at the price we're getting here. We only need to be good here about 30% of the time. Quick replay, the hand just came in. Okay, Gary. So basically, we defend against 20 big blind open from the button, which I think is reasonable with Jack 10. The guy C bets half pot, which he's going to do a huge amount of the time, and we call. And then he overbet ships the turn. Well, it's not. It's a slight overbet. It's not a huge bet, but yeah, he does this, and we in game we fold, but I actually think this is a call. I just think this is too much pressure for us to be calling with the range that calls the flop, unless we have something like 9-10 or 8-10 that we might like get a bit stubborn with. But yeah, I think that's a call, and I think we probably make a mistake there. I think we're going to be good, or have. Don't forget we're not drawing dead against his kings. We do still have like a jack and a 10 as an out. So coupled with that, I mean, we're probably going to have something like 13 or 14% equity. No, not quite that much. We don't have 17 outs, but let's say we've got 10% equity when we're called here. His range is huge, and you beat a lot of it. Yeah, that's basically what I'm trying to say in a nutshell. His range on the turn is big, and we beat a lot of it. So yeah, I think it's a call. As I say, we've got let's say we have 10% equity when we call. Our pot odds here dictate that we need to win the hand like about 30% of the time. Does it tell us where we get our pot odds? Somewhere over here, I think. Okay, so we need 34.9% equity here to make this call profitable. Ah, yeah, of course, because he's overbetting. So let's say we improve 10% of the time. That means that 24.9% of the time, we need him to be bluffing. Oh, well, that's not necessarily true because he's going to have equity against us as well when we do have the best hand. So when he is bluffing, we don't have 100% equity in it. But essentially, we're getting nearly 2-1 an hour, so we don't need to like be right every time. Is basically what I'm saying. I think that's fine. I mean, arguably we can maybe flick it in, but just because we're getting pretty decent odds post ante, but I think folding's fine. The ante's really small actually. 10 chip ante. I mean, it does make a difference though. I think we can fold there as well. It's 3's trash. Yeah, I agree, Gary. We should have called, but we don't because we are a nit. So we're nit, and we're proud to be nit, and we won the tournament. So it all worked out. I love it when people look at it like that. So we open its 10, we get it through, no problem. I'm going to flick it to money invested, so we'll just look at the pots where we actually wagered some money. We would have called that shove. King 7's going to be easily good enough to call. The Jack King. It's going to be, yeah, I'm still not min raising. I'll probably min raise when the effective stacks get below like 30 big blinds. Generally. Yeah, I'm a nit. What can I say? Nit's going to be nit. King 9, going to be a very similar spot. So I'm min raising here. There is a difference between this hand and the last one. We are in a actually. Oh yeah, no, we are. Yeah, sorry. We're in a slightly earlier position in this one. which I guess is why in game why we decided to make it slightly bigger. We're on the hijack, whereas we're on the cutoff here. But I still think we can probably just like make it the same, like 300. I think it's fine. I'd probably min raise this from the button, and at this stage, it's like 2.5 exit from everywhere. This is kind of gross. We can really shove here if we want. I think it's going to be profitable. Certainly, given how much of his stack our stack constitutes, I think we're going to have a lot of fold equity here. It really comes down to how I've tried teaching you how to open up your discipline. It's terrible. Sorry. Yeah, it's really going to come down to how wide this guy's opening. I mean, if this guy is something like a 40-30, so 40% with 30% PFR. So if he's raising 30% of the time and he's folding, like, he's going to be folding so much here just because he's not going to have a hand that's going to be good enough to call often enough. So we can just like pile of pressure on. But I think with Queen 8 as well, we can take a flop. Yes, we're really short and like peeling from these kind of stacks like sucks, but when we're getting like 1, 2, 3, because remember this is dead money. This isn't our 200 anymore. This is, yeah. When we're getting the odds up here, when we're getting over 4 to 1 on our money, I think we can call here and just try and like flop the nuts and stuff. Yeah, I mean we're basically trying to flop some kind of decent draw or a pair or get something that's like some good shot or something that we can just check rip. When it comes ace high, that's just such a good board for his range that we probably shouldn't. We would just check fold. When he checks back the flop, I don't really like stabbing the turn. Lots of people are going to check back here with the intention of pot controlling, so they're going to kind of talk themselves into calling the turn a lot if we were to donk. And we on top of that, we've got no equity, so I think we can just give up. And when he's checking back the flop, he probably has some showdown value, especially on the SI boards where it's just such a good profitable c-bet spot. I think we could just shove here. We've got like 13 big blinds, so in they go. Yeah. Ace King, similar spot to the last hand. Just in terms of balance, I'm just going to rip again. It would look a bit fishy if we tried to like raise off 14 big blinds or 13 big blinds. So yeah, we do good. I'm glad we did. I hate it when I say something and then I do the total opposite. Yeah, again, we're 6 max, remember, so we're not really under the gun here. Plenty of dead money. Let's just lock it up. No, we get called. We do win the tournament, so I'm guessing we don't go broke here. We flop a set, which is lush. Good luck. GG, son. Okay, so we've got Queen and 9 here. Yeah, so I'm switching to the min raise now just because these stacks are a lot shallower. Basically, when you min raise them with these kind of antes, you need to get it through like around about 40% of the time. It's about 42% of the time when you're 9 max. I think it's slightly more. It's going to work out about 44% of the time when we're 6-handed because there's not as many antes dead there. But then this is by no means a mandatory open. It'll depend on how aggressive these guys are. If the guys that still to act are like super like maniacs, well, we don't really want to put ourselves in situations where we're just going to get 3-bet and have to give up. Against those kind of people, I'd probably stick to opening hands that I'm going to like 4-bet rip. So like stuff like suited aces and suited kings and obviously all my value range as well. Okay, so we do get 3-bet. I mean, it's really small as well. Yeah, we're getting like a pretty good price here. We're getting like 2.7 to 1, but this is just when it's this small, it just looks so strong that I'm just gonna give them some credit. It's not like our hand is great. It's not like we can even flop that well. When we do flop a 9, it's often not going to be the top pair, and we're going to be behind on Queen X boards relatively often as well. and it's going to be tough to flop straight and things, and the stacks aren't deep enough for us to use the benefit of our position, unfortunately. This is an interesting spot. So we have an open here. I don't know this guy's frequency because we don't have a HUD. That would probably be the first thing I'll be checking in this stage. And this guy ships. Now this guy's range is pretty wide. He's got like 10 big blinds, so I pretty safely assume that he's going to be reshoving like king queen, almost any like suited ace. Probably not ace 6 off, maybe like ace 9, ace 10, maybe not ace 9, ace 10 plus. And against that range, we're going to have plenty of equity. I'll open up this. Oh, we'll actually plug the numbers. So it comes down to this guy's raising frequency on whether or not we think this guy's going to have a super strong range often enough. Because let's say this guy didn't open, we'd be reshoving anyway, most of the time against most people, because he's going to fold a lot. When this guy comes along, because we're crushing this guy's range, like in my opinion we are, unless he's like some mega nit, that's just extra dead money. It also makes our 4-bet shove, if we do shove, look a lot stronger, which means he's going to fold hands that like we crush. So we're not going to get it in great very often when we are called. So it'll literally come down to how wide this guy's opening and how tightly he's going to call if we ship. Like if we think he's going to fold pocket 9s and pocket 8s and maybe even pocket 10s when we shove here, then we should obviously be shoving here every time. And likewise, if he's opening something like 25% from this spot, well then we'll be shoving as well, because he's not going to be able to call us often enough. And I see this as pretty much dead money and just more of an incentive. It just makes reshoving on him that more valuable, because we're going to get this extra 3k the vast majority of the time against this guy's range. I mean, yes, he's going to suck when this guy finds like queens and kings and aces and just like, busts us, but even then it's not like the end of the world, because there's still plenty of dead money that we can attack it. You can't go worrying about just being cool at all time. He does fold, so we need to win a flip. Any jack, queen or ace? Jack, we'll take it. So we double up. So we've got queen jack now on the hijack. Again, just sticking at the min raising strategy. No history with Bulbasaur or anything yet. And that gets through. It's pretty boring. Jack 6. I'm probably going to flick it. Yeah, let's switch it now so that we aren't just looking at all the money invested, because we want to make sure we're not missing too many spots. Open the 6-7. I assume we min raised. Yeah, we did min raise. Just going to be stealing a massive percentage of the time here. 6-7 can flop decently, as we find out. So I'm going to be c-betting here. I'm going to be c-betting the king high board a lot of the time, generally. We're expecting this guy to pill pretty wide. Again, I don't know this guy's frequency, we've got no HUD, but we can expect the vast majority of people, when they get in like that kind of a price, to be peeling here relatively often. So he's going to have lots of air, yes, sure, but that's not going to improve very often. He can also have lots of draws and things that he might check raise, and he can have a king. And as we've seen already, and most people like God mode enabled, yeah, God mode, yeah, confirmed. It's the Batman belt. I've got a Batman belt on. It's just like every time I wear it, I'm like God. But yeah, we're basically, people don't fold to c-bets that often anymore, so it makes sense to see that. Again, just going half pot as I would do on this kind of a texture often. Clicked it there, we spoil it, so we get like, yeah, I mean, this raise here is kind of strong. I wouldn't expect it to be that light that often, because of the sizing. It's not like particularly massive. And we're getting a pretty good price on calling here. I mean, I think that when he does this, he's going to have, generally, people aren't check raising that much as a bluff. Most people still, in my opinion, do it for value. And we block all the sets here, so it's unlikely he's got pocket 6, pocket 7s. There's only one combo of each of those left. Yeah, sure, you can have king 6, king 7, but we're just going to lose to them anyway. But you can have all kinds of draws here that you might stack off with, and also some kings as well. So it's all down to whether or not we think this guy's going to continue with his draws on the turn. If we think he's going to like just rip turns when he doesn't get there as well, so say if he does have something like 8-9 of diamonds, or queen 10 of clubs, and he's check raising those kind of hands, if we think he's going to then shove those hands, if we flat here, well then I think we should flat. But I think we can also just look to get in here. It's not like our hand is super nutted right now. There's plenty of turns that can either kill our action or improve him. But personally, I prefer a call here, just because against most people, when they've decided to take this check raise line, if they are bluffing, they're probably going to continue on the turn as well. And again, it comes down to that. If they're going to call with the same hands that they're going to shove on the turn anyway, and there's also that chance that they're going to bluff as well, well then we'll be daft to miss out on that bluff equity. It's not like against his total bluffs that we're going to be in bad shape. Because if he is totally bluffing here with something like ace-5 with like the ace of clubs, well then he's going to struggle to improve there, and there's also a chance he's going to improve to the second best hand as well. So if an ace peels up on the turn, we can stack him then as well. So I like calling here. I know we do like put him in. I think that's fine as well, but I think that probably calling here might be the best play. I just think when he takes the lead, we're probably better off just letting him like barrel off sometimes as well. We get it in against like, this is like the nut position. Just got to fade an 8 or a jack, and we do. I mean they're the benefits of getting it in on the flop, but arguably like King Jack here isn't that great of a hand to get it in on the flop, because when we're 3-betting here, when we're 3-bet shoving that flop, King Jack isn't in great shape. So I don't really like that. I think he can probably, our line probably gives him a chance to get away from this hand. Unfortunately, I think that we've made a mistake there. I think we should just flat, but we didn't, and it worked out this time. But I don't think getting it in is bad there either. But I prefer flatting just for the reasons I said. Oh, we're not in this hand. I was wondering what hand we had. Okay, so this guy, I'm going to call him Stacy because that name's a bit of a mouthful. So Stacy opens from the cutoff, button folds, and weighted folds to us with 8-9 on the small blind. I don't like calling this spot. Our hand is just like, I mean, this guy's got less than 20 big blinds. Suited connectors aren't really that good. They're great for being aggressive with, but they're not really great for calling out of position. You're gonna struggle to flop well. I'd be flatting the big blind, incidentally, but from the small blind when we're not closing the action, and with this guy's stack size, and look at our pot odds. They're so much worse from the small blind than they are from the big blind. So I think we should fold here. Hope we do fold. I think this is a leak for a lot of people. They flick it in to try and see a flop, but you just flop nothing too often with a hand like 8-9. So we do fold. I think that's probably the right play and disciplined. The arguments there, yes, we could maybe 3-bet the 8-9, but I don't like that either. I mean, in that case, we're 3-bet bluffing against a guy that isn't going to call us very often, because if we're 3-betting here, it's going to be to, like, say, even if we make it small, like 1680, which is probably as small as we could sensibly make it, then he's going to shove on us a lot, because he's going to have a perfect shoving stack, and then we're just blowing a pot out of position with 8-9. We've got 9 high. We're going to be c-betting on boards that we're just dead on. So folding. I mean, I don't like 3-betting. If I was going to 3-bet bluff here, I'd prefer it to be with a hand like King 9 of diamonds, or King 8 of diamonds, or Ace X of diamonds, because then we have some blocker combinations as well, so we can get more folds, because he's not going to have hands that can call us that as often. If there's any terms or anything that I'm mentioning, I'm trying to explain everything as clearly as I can, and obviously I don't know what level everyone's on, but yeah, feel free to pull me up on it. Okay, so we've got ace 10 on the button. Somehow. Oh yeah, sorry, this is the limp. This is the min-raise. This can go either way. It'll depend on this guy's range. Like, if this guy was a 60-40, I'd probably call here just because we dominate so much his range and we just have him crushed. If he was really tight, you can make arguments for folding. Or if he was someone that opens a lot and folds to a lot of 3-bets, then you can make arguments for 3-betting as well. But for me, I prefer calling here. I'm going to be able, purely because we've got the button. I think if there's anywhere you're going to be able to defend a bit more ambitiously and a bit. Actually, I've just seen the big blinds. Yeah, no, I prefer calling here. That's probably an extra reason to call here, is that we're going to give this guy on the button, sorry, on the big blind, a perfect situation to squeeze. We're going to be giving him like, so there's going to be like what, 3, 6, 9. There's going to be over 1,000 chips of dead money, so there's going to be like a third of his stack of dead money in the middle. So he's going to rip it sometimes as well. So if we overcall here, or we just flat, then and this guy rips, we can find out where this guy is. So if he does shove and this guy goes all in, well, then we can make a really easy fold with ace 10. Whereas if this guy folds, then we can make a really easy call with ace 10. Plus, we can just play it profitably post flop anyway. If we were here, I'd probably fold. And if we were here, I'd probably be more inclined to 3-bet fold. But on the button exactly, I think we can just call. And obviously, I'm talking generally. It would differ from player to player. We flop pretty well. And now look, I mean, we can float here a lot as well. Even if we didn't have ace 10, because we called the stacks that a little bit deeper. He checks, I think, did he? He assumed he checked, and we bet like half pot. And he folds. So that's fine. I mean, it's perfectly feasible that he's folded a better hand there. Something like pocket 7s or pocket 5s or even ace queen. He might have just given up. Like another reason to flat the button there as well is if we know this guy's like similar kind of to what I said earlier, where he's just firing one and he's done. Well, then we can call there because we're going to be able to float a lot without significant risk. Like if we 3-bet here and then we're planning on him, or so let's say he has like, or we have his stack. When we float, it's going to be like a lot more of our stack, so we can't do it as often. Oh. Things are frozen again. Okay, it's working. King 9. This is a similar spot. So we've got like a pretty big chip lead here. This guy, we haven't seen pot the NDL play a single hand yet. So we can kind of pretend he doesn't exist. Obviously he does because he's got 12k chips, so he's obviously playing some hands. But for the most part, if he is in it, he's just going to fold. So we can just almost act like we've got the button here, and I'd be piling it on these guys. If anything, it's better for us because it makes us look that bit stronger. It just doesn't look like we're stealing the button, which is essentially what we're doing. We get shoved on here, and it comes back to us. Now, this is a math situation. It really depends on how wide we think this guy's shoving. Maybe I'll show you how to work it out. So, I mean, we could work out our pot odds here. It actually tells us up here, so we don't need to do that right now. But essentially what we need to do is work out the amount it is to call, and then the total pot when we call. So we divide the amount it is to call by the total pot. Oh, let me open a calculator and I'll show you how to do it. Okay, so the total pot is, it's 600 plus the 240. Plus the 300 and then plus his bet size. So that would be 600 plus the 240 plus 300 plus 3046. So our total pot size is, it probably does tell me somewhere. I haven't used this software for a while. But that's a total pot, 4,186. Now, the amount it is for us to call is 2,446. So we add 2,446 to the total pot, which is 6632, and then we divide the amount it is to call by 6632. So I'll just write 6632 down, and this is the same for any time you call him. And then you basically just you just match the equity your hand has against his range to the pot you're getting, and if you're getting good enough odds, you can call. But so let's do it. So it was 2,400. Yeah, 2,446. So we divide that by the pot size after we call, which is that, which is 36.88%. And as we can see here, that's right, because it's 30. This has already done that for us and told us we need 36.9% equity. But if you don't know how to do it, that was just a quick dummy way of doing it. So you basically add the whole pot together, add the amount it is you have to call to the pot, and then divide the amount it is you have to call by the pot after you call. Okay? And that comes out at 39%. So that's how much equity we need to break even. So our King 9, to be profitable, needs to have 36.9% equity against his range. So it all comes down to his reshoving range. Let's play with some numbers here. Let's just do King 9 against a random distribution. So let's say this guy was shoving any two cards. We don't have King 9 suited, we've got King 9 off. It's not going to make a huge difference, it's going to drop to about 55, but 57%. So we have 57% if this guy was shoving 100% of the time. Obviously, he's not going to be shoving 100% of the time, but as an example, we could say that. So let's say this guy he's drunk in the pub and he's drunk in the casino and he hasn't looked at his cards and we know he's shoving 100% of the time. This is a must call because against his any two card range, we're going to have 57% equity. Now, in reality, he's probably had a look and he's probably shoving. I mean, let's just say he's shoving like a super nutted range, so stuff like aces, kings, queens, jacks. Let's just say he's shoving like that kind of tight. Then it's a fold because we don't have 36.8% equity. So essentially, we need about in game. Like I'd probably thought, well, we need about 40% equity, and it's probably really close. It depends on literally how wide we think he's shoving, and then there's other things to consider as well. Let's say we think he's shoving like 25% of the time. Oh, 25%. So he's shoving the top 25% of his hands. Well, that's how wide he'd need to be to make this profitable. So it really comes down to, obviously, there's benefits to not doubling them up as well, because it means that we can still, take stabs and keep putting pressure on him, but it's also not a lot of our stack to call. So I think that doing the maths on that, I think we might have to flick this in. It'll come down to how tight he is. Like if he's super tight, then we'd fold, which is, I assume, is why we folded. There's not really, it's not a must call. We're not getting like a super good price, but okay, we'll fold that one. 9's here. Oi oi. So against this guy, we can go. I'm probably going to be. Again, it depends on how we think this guy is. We could 3-bet to call it off here if we think that this guy's got a 4-bet shove on us light, or if he's opening like. Actually, if he is opening a wide range, I don't even like 3-betting to make him fold now. I know that's probably immediately profitable because of all the dead money, but I don't mind just peeling and just letting him barrel off sometime. I feel like I'm going to be able to play 9s properly post flop, and I'll call here vast majority of the time. And if he had something like 6k, I'd just put him in. But I just think when he's got like 22 big blinds or whatever it is, just under 22 big blinds, that he's not going to get it in light enough. We could shove profitably without a doubt, because he's going to be most people are going to be folding enough here, and 9s are going to be doing well enough against that kind of a range. That shoving's profitable, but I think calling's low variance, especially if we think we've got some good reads on this guy post flop. We do call, and that flop is just too good for him, so we're done. Hopefully we can get a showdown and win it sometimes, and he has queens. So we're going to fold there, I assume. Let's check just in case we don't. Yeah, we do. Fantastic. It's another fold. Okay, so we've got 8 deuce. What we'll probably do is do this for maybe another 20 minutes or so, and then we'll probably reg up some tournaments and see what we can do. So we've got 7 deuce. Not a lot going on. Let's just look at the money invested hands again. More to talk about there. This here, I jacked into it very similar to the last spot. This guy's given us 2.7 to 1 here to call. So we need 27.1% equity tells us up here. I mean, we could, if we wanted to, we could do the calculation that we did earlier on to work out, you know, how much equity we need. But we're also getting to play this hand in position. This is a lot different to calling a range from the calling a raise from the button, where we're going to be out of position the whole hand. And this is why you shouldn't be min raising from the small blind. This guy doesn't. This guy makes it better, bigger, which basically gives us a much worse price on the call. But I think calling here is perfectly fine. I think that's probably a no-brainer. I'm probably going to stab when he checks. He's going to be giving up a lot. It doesn't make sense for him to try and check raise and stuff, because if he I totally lost my train of thought. I mean, I guess he could be check calling to try and get us to stab, given that we're not going to, like. Yeah, actually, he's probably. I think if he's going to continue with the hand, he's probably going to do it aggressively. It wouldn't make sense for him to check. For me anyway, it wouldn't make sense for him to check a king here, because he's not going to get much credit for it anyway when he's opening blind v blind. He's going to be c-betting like every time. So I think we should probably just bet the flop and just try and take it down there. We go for a delayed c-bet, I assume, and he does check the turn, so then we take a stab. And this is just, when he checks twice, I'm pretty sure that he's falling here all the time, because he's just not shown any interest in the hand, so it's fine. Fours. This is a similar spot to the other one. We're going to get called here a lot, but we're not min raising, importantly. I think we can probably make it slightly bigger. We get like an awful flop, really. In any other situation, I wouldn't be barreling this flop. I wouldn't be c-betting, because it just smashes any calling range. But when we're playing blind v blind, I think we can maybe fire one and just like wince a little bit, and hopefully we get it through. So like fire it, click the mouse with crossed fingers or something. We don't. I mean, we just check fold in there. It's just we're just gonna be dead so much. He's gonna have so much equity most of the time. He's checking it down, and we get there. It's going to be tough to get value here, because he's shown no interest in winning the hand. Is one way to look at it. We could also say, well, this guy hasn't shown any aggression. We've kind of got to the river here. If we were going to bet, then we're going to make it bigger, because we expect this to look pretty weak when we haven't shown any interest in the hand before. I think generally though, because he's never really going to have anything, I think we should go small. Yeah, I think this is probably a little bit too big. I think we should go small and try and get a call from like a 9 or a 10, which he might have been checking back. I think this is probably a little bit too big. Yeah, and he folds. I think it's just a little bit too big. Given how weak this guy seems to be, I don't think we can be getting value there that often if we make it so big. We open the queen 8, which is fine. We get ratio, so we're going to be folding. Interesting. So let's just see what this guy called, if he did call it off. So this guy flat 10s, so that's something to keep an eye on. We got aces. Oh, this is a really interesting spot. This is like the nut called 4-bet bluff spot. They don't like come much better than this. It's purely because everyone's ranges are weak here, or they're not necessarily weak, but they're at their weakest. Like this button generally should be opening really wide, or most buttons will be opening really wide, which means he's going to have a weak range, which therefore means that this 3-bet here is going to be light. Oh, it's going to be it's going to be light more often. So his 3-betting range here is going to be his weakest, to combat the fact that this guy is so weak, or to attack this guy's weak button range, which means that this is a great spot to 4-bet bluff because these guys both are at their weakest ranges. However, it's not something that people do very often. And without any history here, the problem is anything we do here except for folding looks like super strong. So I don't really think, I wouldn't recommend folding to induce. That's not really going to win you a lot of money with aces. So you can kind of like, you got two choices here. Nothing's going to suck because the stacks are already good. If you just call here, the stacks are going to be pretty shallow anyway. And you do risk like missing value from ace king and stuff. If who are going to brick a lot when we have all the aces, but they're probably going to see bet once as well. I think that maybe calling here if we don't have any history that these guys are like stupidly out of line, or even if we do, like if we say this Mal guy on the small blind, if we know this guy's really aggressive in 3-bet pots, well then we can call here. Because when we call, we're going to have lots of like ace queens. Yes, sure, we're going to have aces and kings sometimes as well. Well, more often aces than kings, let's say. But we're going to have lots of like 10s and 8s and 9s. Maybe not 8s, but we're going to have 10s and jacks and maybe queens. We might even just flat ace queen here as well. So I think flatting is probably... Can't decide whether I like flat. I don't mind either really. It really comes down to how we think this guy, how strong we think that guy's 3-bet is. If we think it's weak, well then we should probably just flat and just hope that he barrels off something post flop. If we think that he's 3-betting pretty tight in this spot, which I mean he probably isn't, well then we should probably be looking to get it in, because if he's 3-betting a strong range, he's still going to like the strength of his hand most of the time when we called 4-bet shove. Although we arguably shouldn't shove. This is another thing, like if we make it like, if we just min it here, so we make it something like 5.5k, like 5, 6 or something, wouldn't it? Would be the smallest raise. But if we made it that, then he's when he rips it on us, we're gonna be getting 2 to 1 on a call. So he's not gonna. It's tough for us to make it any size in here that doesn't look strong when we called 4-bet. So that's kind of making me lean towards calling. But like I say, if we think this guy, okay, so we do call. But if we think this guy's 3-bet is really strong, then we should probably just try and get it in here, just because then we don't miss the value when he bricks the flop, which he'll do sometimes. So let's say he has ace queen, ace king and stuff. It's not like he's going to be able to check. It's not like we're going to be able to check and induce a c-bet because we're in position. And plus this guy like is still to whack behind us, so he might flat sometimes, I guess. I guess that we don't mind taking the aces multi-way. Make a really small turn stab and he gives up. So that probably means that his 3-bet range was pretty wide. No, ace king. I think this is a pretty good spot to check back if it checks to us, and it does. Just because our hand's pretty strong. Yes, we're going to be behind the 5s, but there's not going to be many hands that are going to be able to improve here. There's not a bunch of value from straight draws. Like people aren't really going to be defending with like 2-3 and 4-3 and stuff like that. There's only really flush draws, and with the ace of diamonds out there, it's far less likely that they have flush draws. So I don't mind checking back and hopefully letting them catch up, and also making them fall in love with an ace a little bit more as well. The pot's already kind of big, so we're going to be able to get it in against a big blind if we go over 2 streets anyway. We can get it in against the small blind as well. I do c-bet. I think it's pretty standard to c-bet here, but I like checking back for the reasons I've said. I'd probably be more inclined to check back if it was heads up, because I would. I mean, it looks a lot stronger c-betting into two players, but I guess they are on the blinds and we're opening. We're c-betting an ace high, ace 5-5, which is something we're going to do a lot anyway. So I think we can just c-bet here. I think we can just check back here and expect to make more money than when we c-bet, because now when we c-bet this flop, we're only going to get called when they have an ace. When we do, we turn a king, which is sweet. It's a diamond, so it's kind of bittersweet, but I still think we can get value. The good thing about this turn card is that any aces we can still Any aces now aren't going to fold because that king kind of ties them. Hmm. It's probably a pretty awful like bet fold situation. I can't see him really getting too out of line with like an ace here. I think that he's probably just going to check call an ace because he's going to be chopping with anything that calls him. So I don't really see him turning an ace into a bluff here by check raising. So I think that if he was to check raises here, I'd be inclined to think he had a 5 or a flush and he'd check call that on the flop. But we don't need to worry about that because he didn't do it. So we've been streaming for just over an hour here, so I'll give whoever's there a quick update. Basically, we're reviewing a 22 6 max tournament from Sunday, which I won. Sorry to spoil it. It means that we're going to win every flip that we're all in. I don't actually think we flipped that much. I think that I can't remember getting it in until the final table. You know, from this point onwards. I'm sure we do, but yeah. So we're basically just running through the hands. Post any kind of questions, or if you want to attack me and you think I played a hand like total spades, then just let me know and we'll talk it out. All civilized like. So we check. Do we defend the queen 6? I think this is a bit optimistic. I have no idea. Yeah, we must defend. I think this is bad. I think this is a leak. Queen 6 offsuit is probably a bit too weak to defend here. Queen 6 suited. Yeah, I think we can flick that in, but I think this is a leak. I think this kind of thing is going to happen too often, and we're just going to have to fold too many flops. And it's not like we can ever flop well, so I think that's probably a bit of a leak. Well, I don't think there's any probability about it. I think it's a mistake. Is it? I think we can get back on the bandwagon and start raising again. I'm going to c-bet here. We've got backdoor straight doors, backdoor flush draws. Yeah, he's... against the small blind, I wouldn't c-bet this flop because his small blind range is going to be a lot stronger than the big blind range for a number of reasons. Like, the small blind wouldn't be closing the action. He's going to be out of position for the whole time. So there's plenty... He has a ton of like Broadway combos when he peels from the small blind. So I wouldn't barrel it against him. But against the big blind, who's going to be peeling like any 2 cards, given that we're going to be able to barrel this a decent percentage of the time as well, I think we can see that here. We check it back. I assume that we do feel like we have enough showdown value with ace high, which yes, we do. Anything that we're going to get to fold, we're certainly going to be ahead of. But I think that I quite like c-betting. For this reason, I mean, this is a perfect turn that we can barrel and get him to fold some kings sometimes and some like... 10s as well and 6s, which he'd probably like call once with. He checks again. Now I think we should bet. Oh wow, we check back. I think this is a mistake again. I wonder if we time it out or something. It might be sat out. If we check back the river, like that's really the turn. Like I think we're just trying to get the showdown with our ace high, which I don't really like. And this is, you know, we turn the river the nuts here, and I think we've played this hand just super weak and super bad. I think we should have bet certainly the turn, because when he checks the turn twice, like he's just never continuing. And even if he does, we've still got so much equity here. We've got a flush draw, and we've got an overcard as well. So we're going to improve like 25% of the time here, and we'll probably have the best hand. You know, when we do that. Almost like, so we improve 25, we're probably going to have the best on like 24% of the time. So I think we can bet it here and push him off. So let's say this comes to Jack of Diamonds, for example, and he has a hand like Jack 8. Jack 8's going to fold the turn, and we've just given them a free shot of getting there. So we can bet there and just, like, yes, we've got enough showdown value to probably check it back, but I think betting him off whatever equity he has when we have so much equity is sensible. So this guy... takes a half pot stab on the river, and we're going to raise. It's probably going to be pretty weird to raise here. It's because I think we've got really lucky because we've backdoored the flush draw that we're not really going to get much credit for having a flush here because we're probably going to have barreled our flush draws on the turn. So yeah, I quite like this sizing because it's going to look bluffy anyway, so we may as well make it a sizing that looks like really calculated and bluffy. And he calls, which surprised me. We can't see what he has, unfortunately. But I'd be interested to see. I reckon we probably got called pretty light there. If you river to Jack, we probably got looked up. Let's get it raised up again. It's going to be a fold now. Nowhere near we're getting the right price there. 42% we need. King and queen. What I'll probably do is I'll probably go for a few more hands, and then we'll pause for the break while all the MTT players are on break, and then we'll boot up some tournaments and just start like owning some souls. And we'll probably continue with this. I might put it in a video somewhere or something, or I'll just continue it next week if people actually want to see it. We defend here. This is, yeah, we'll do this as the last hand. We complete here. I don't mind this complete when we get called here on the big blind as well. I think with king queen suited, I think we're going to flop well enough, even to be compensated for the fact that we're in the small blind. Saying that, I'm not going to go ballistic. I don't expect this guy to go bluffing into like three-way into three of us. So yes, we've got second pair. This is kind of pretty weak to fold, I guess, but I guess we don't have the heart that we need to win this pot. So yeah, we'll make this the last hand. This is, again, a similar situation. I don't mind c-betting here against the big blind because he's going to be peeling a lot. We're going to be opening a lot of queens and jacks, so this is a perfectly believable c-bet. I choose to make this bigger than I have been normally, and that's because I don't want to really ever get floated here. So with a hand like pocket fours, I don't really want to be barreling because we're not going to be able to turn any equity. And because we're not going to be able to turn in much equity, I don't like barreling. So I'll make my flop sizing a little bit bigger. And I would make it bigger on this kind of texture anyway for a combination of like protection and value. But I'm going to make this bigger here because I don't want to make it like 1100 and just get called by like 6 deuce and just like lose the pot every time when I'm not. Oh no, we beat 6 deuce, but like, do you know what I mean? Like we risk getting bluffed off it, and we risk getting floated sometimes as well. The difficulty with pocket pairs is that it's just so hard for them to improve. We put this guy in. He's got 10 big blinds. I'm pretty sure this was the bubble, which is why we put him in. I think it's still going to be profitable with pretty much any 2 cards anyway. So we do, and he folds. So go on, we'll do one more because it's not 5-2 yet. So yeah, this must be the bubble because we're just going absolutely tits and just crushing. So let's see where we are now. Let's take the money invested off. So we get back on it again. We get flat from the small blind. On the bubble, I'm going to be c-betting here, I think. I don't want to check back. I think this is kind of weak because now we've just got to fold. So okay, so we defend there. I think that's fine. These stacks are deep enough. Yeah, we're going to get this kind of flop quite a bit as well, and we can like continue and improve. I would have probably sometimes check raised and sometimes check called this flop. If I'm check calling, it's with the intention of betting almost every river when he checks back the turn. Depending on whether or not we get there, would dictate my size. Perfectly fine bet there. Obviously, I've got the second, well, not the second nuts, but he doesn't really have, the only straight he has in his range really is Jack 10. Again, just a pure value bet. It sucks that the 5 comes because then any 6 makes a straight, and we can have lots of 6s when we dunk the turn. So yeah, so for the first part of that went really well. So we crushed. What do you think? Were there any hands that like you think I played like a tard or not? Let me know. Let me know. And if there's anything you want me to run through, do it in there. Just post it in the forums on Poker VIP, and I'll look at it. So I'm going to go on break here for a couple of minutes. When I come back, I'll probably boot some. I will boot some tournaments up in the break, and we'll just get owning some people. So I'll be back in a couple of minutes. Okay, so we've got some cash in here. Okay, we're back. I've booted some tournaments in the break here. I'll just pull up the screen capture for you again. Let's just get everything edited back. Okay, so yeah, I just booted up some tournaments while we were on break so that we've actually got something to watch. I appreciate that you guys can't see everything right now, so I'll move everything back. I was planning on doing the hand history for the whole time, but it looks like it wasn't really that interesting. So, yeah, I don't think it didn't work as well as I thought it would. I was hoping that you know there would be a lot of people to get involved, but I guess it's kind of a little bit heavy for people that just want to chill out and stuff. So hopefully with ships, I just booted up stars and booted up some tournaments. Let me just adjust it. So we select the region. We want all of this. Give me all of that and all of that. Oh, I'm gonna have to pause the stream a second because I don't have it on a delay. So I'll stop it and the stream will actually kick off and we'll be back up with some live sweats in around about 2 minutes time.